Welcome back, ye folks of Lumeria, to another delightful and 5 million-year-old episode of Loathsome Things, a horror movie podcast. My name is John, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Josh. Josh, how are you doing, sir?
So fucking good. John, god damn it.
Yeah.
You and I haven't even talked about this movie at all before we started recording.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah, right?
I love it.
Yeah, it is all the way great. But first.
Yeah.
But first.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. Yeah. I'm ready for this fucking summer to be over, and other than that, doing okay. How about yourself?
Yeah, the same. I hate the way that the air feels, but also. Are you getting any of that good? Oh shit, what's it called? Pell Grant. You getting any of that good Pell Grant money?
I have received Pell Grants, so I should be able to get the $20,000 dropped off my aid, which is nice.
Yep, same here. I got those Pell Grants, and so now I'm going to be living large with some less student loan debt.
Yeah, same. Now I can finish school because my loans won't be maxed out anymore.
There you go.
Oh my god. Oh. Good times.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good job, Joe Biden. That's the coolest thing you've done probably ever.
Yeah.
But you look like a fucking weirdo, my dude.
Yeah, you look a little bit like Fireman Bill, but
yeah.
That's okay. I can deal with it.
Have you ever noticed that it looks like the back of his head is caved in?
He's got like the cool old guy hair, but then you see the back of his head and it's got that little micro mullet in the back that it would be so easy to just fix that one little whip. But no.
The era of presidents that have really good haircuts, that's in our past.
I think that's the handle where you lift up the back of his head to wind his brain up.
You have to refill the water reservoir so that the little birdie can keep dunking.
That's right.
Yeah.
Kind of like Uncle Anwar.
Oh, Uncle Anwar. What movie is it that we are even watching about today?
Oh, I'm glad you asked, because this one is special. We are talking about 1987's Blood Diner, directed by Jackie Kong.
Jackie Kong really did it, didn't she?
She is fantastic and really just didn't do much of note beyond this movie.
Yeah. This was like one of I think it's 4 movies or something like that she did.
Yeah, she's done a few. This is the only one that really got any attention. She's still around. She goes to cons. She's got some comic book out, apparently, which I guess is very Kong-esque. But yeah, she's still going out there. She seems like she's pretty cool. I'd love to meet her at a convention sometime. But yeah, this was her magnum opus. It's something else. It's very 1980s. So yeah, this movie has been given a pretty deluxe DVD release, and it's of course was not a big box office hit, but it's been pretty popular.
Yeah. And on a super low budget. She basically had the same budget for this movie that John Carpenter had for Halloween, but it was 9 years later.
Jeez. Yeah, and there's a lot more going on in this movie.
There's so much business going on in every scene. It won't stop.
Yeah, it's super high energy, very, very crazy. It's insane. It's a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, totally worth watching. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's a really good one.
Yeah, it's got no one of note in it. one of the two main characters, one of the two brothers, died a couple years later in a car crash.
Jesus.
He was in some sort of like a punk rock band or whatever in the LA area back at the time, and he and his bandmate got into a wreck apparently. I tried to look up the lady that plays Sheba. I think her name is like Lynette LaFrance or something like that. Nothing.
No.
There's nothing online.
That's the police lady is Lynette LaFrance.
Yeah, Sheba, right? Don't they call her Sheba?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I was getting it confused with Sheetar for no good reason.
Sheetar. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. No, yeah, this was like Lynette LaFrance's only movie ever.
Yeah, the only thing I found about her online was somebody asking what the hell happened to Lynette LaFrance.
It was probably the fact that she couldn't get through lines without her accent going all over the place.
Let me tell you something, brother. It's like, wait a minute.
Now, this for 80s horror movie buffs, this movie does for a moment feature the stylings of Joe B. Barton, who is famous for, in this same year, he played Buddy Bacon in the Rick Rossler movie Slaughterhouse.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
This movie does...
That's the guy that...
Go ahead.
Oh, that's the guy that he keeps trying to hit with the van.
Oh, okay. I thought that was Matty Matheson, renowned Canadian chef, and... actor in The Bear.
Oh, is it? I don't know. I could be getting it wrong.
No, it's not him, but he looks just like him. Oh. It's hilarious.
No.
I was like,
nice.
Why does he keep running over Matty Matheson? Anyways, yes. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna let me synopsize this movie. It was quite a feat to try to keep it under 500 words, I have to say.
Jesus, sir. Like, if you didn't make it, I wouldn't blame you, because this movie is dense.
564.
Okay, that works. That works.
I tried.
It's still a 500.
Yeah, I tried really hard to get it. It was there were chunks that I just left out, and also I'm used to like us really kind of digging into more on a more granular level, because I was like, in my mind I was thinking about the movie and I'm like, okay, this is going to be cool because I can just kind of summarize it and be a smart ass. And then I'm watching the movie to kind of remind myself, what goes when. And there's just so much. And it's like trying to choose what not to include was tough.
Yeah.
But
yeah, you could probably write 500 words on the weird scarecrow guy.
I mean, it's just so much crazy shit. Oh my God. So the movie opens on a Los Angeles bungalow in 1961. We're like panning across this apartment and there's all, there's like Life magazine and stuff. Two kids are in the apartment or in the house playing. One is white and the other one is like super brown. It's like, okay, whatever. And the mom's like, sure. I'm going to go out. I'll be back in 20 minutes. I need to get some tampons. And then on the radio, they hear this warning about a psycho killer that's out on the loose. He's got a knife in his hand and his genitals in the other. And this guy bashes through the door, and he's got a knife in his hand. No genitals, but he's got a knife in his hand. It's their Uncle Anwar, who happens to be the psycho killer. And he gives them each a 500 million year old amulet from the Lemurians. and implores them to study this book that he's given them because he wants to resurrect the goddess Sheetar.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the cops arrive, and Anwar's like, I have to go now, boys. It is my time, but I will see you again, or whatever the fuck he says, and goes out and gets shot. So then we cut to 20 years later, and the boys are digging Anwar up in what can only be described as somebody's garden in their backyard. It's supposed to be a cemetery.
It's a really nice garden grave.
They get spotted by a security guard who is a dude with his hair sprayed gray to make him look old, and they clock him on the back of the head. Mikey clocks him on the back of the head with a shovel. They kill him, and then they dig up Anwar's corpse and hacksaw down the middle of his skull. And his brain springs out like it's on some sort of launching device.
Like you're opening a prop can of peanuts.
Exactly that. And they put his brain in a jar, which magically happens to have eyes attached to it later when you see it. But
I think those were the security guard's eyes. I think they knocked his eyeballs out.
You're right.
And then used them for Uncle Anwar.
That's right. I didn't even think. I was like, why are his eyes? I just assumed that he hit him in the head so hard his eyes popped out. I didn't even think
they did.
They did. I didn't realize they used them though. That's how stupid I am. The little touches in this movie are amazing. So
yeah, little things all over the place.
It's amazing. So they have their book. They Shitar book chant Anwar back to life of some sort, and they take off with Anwar. They're gonna do their whole thing. The cops are investigating the scene, so they're now aware of this weird murder / grave robbery thing. Anwar sends them on a mission. He wants them to rebuild Shitar's body with parts from virgins and tramps, and then he's going to have a blood buffet in their disgusting Tutman diner, which is like some abandoned business on a corner somewhere in LA that I guess they had access to. So they made it kind of look like a diner.
Yeah.
It's so gross.
There's so much nonsense going on in there, including a one-way mirror.
A one-way mirror. Like, there's, like, Georgie, the other brother, white brother, is, like, insane. He's, like, throwing food everywhere, and he's got this huge chef hat, and...
Georgie's awesome.
He's amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's these girls, they're high school girls sitting at a table, and there's this girl, Connie, and she's crying. She's really going for it, like her eyes are all red and wet. And Mikey sees her, and he, like, invites her to come to their Lumerian feast. Because, Lumerians, it's a 500 million year old culture or whatever. 500 million years. So, next thing you know, the boys are, they break into a nude aerobics class.
Not even actually a nude aerobics class. They're just shooting a nude aerobics video. And so it's just lots of tits bouncing around, including the lady organizing the whole thing has her tits out too for no reason, just, I guess, out of solidarity.
And they're just, it didn't look very comfortable either. They're just running in place and their tits are just boing, boing, boing. And then they burst in with machine guns.
Yup.
Like Tommy guns, and slaughter everybody.
Oh, and he's wearing a Ronald Reagan mask.
Oh, that's right, the Ronald Reagan mask. That was a nice touch.
Yeah, 1987.
Oh my god. So they take all their body parts, because these are trampy women apparently, because they do naked aerobics, so that makes them tramps. It's so bizarre. And then let's see. I'm sorry, this movie is so ridiculous.
It's so crazy. And up until this part, like Uncle Anwar in the jar is just, like, abusive, like, verbally abusive constantly. Like, when they were little kids, he was like, "You're doing so good, Georgie. You will be such a good chef one day." And then now he's like, "Okay, homo, let's get going."
I know. Don't forget to pick that up, homo.
What a bunch of great sluts.
If only I had my schlong. He's fantastic. So oh my god.
Oh my god, this is amazing.
Okay. Yeah, so so that happens, and then the police chief puts Sheba and Mark, who's this really sleazy cop, he puts them together on the case. And in the meantime, the boys are now serving these body parts at the diner, which is packed, because apparently Georgie is a fantastic chef.
A vegetarian chef.
Yeah, yes, and a vegetarian chef who's serving literal body parts that apparently people don't know, because they are told it's vegetarian.
Yep.
So, it makes no sense. So anyways, but it doesn't fucking matter at all. So yeah, Sheba and, let's see. So they're serving the people at the diner. George sees this guy, Jimmy Hitler, on TV, because he's a wrestling fan, Jimmy Hitler's a wrestler, who challenges the public to come and fight him if anybody wants to take him on. So, of course, George is like, I can wrestle. And then the fat guy at the counter, whose name is Vitamin, and then he points at his belly and goes, see? Vitamin C. He says something to Georgie about wrestling, and then Georgie dives over the counter and puts him in a chokehold. And then the guy starts vomiting all over the restaurant. Just so that happens. That's fine. And now, all of a sudden, it's so bizarre. We cut to the cops again. Oh, that's right. I forgot. Mikey gives the 5 million year old amulet to Connie when he's having this little discussion with her, and he's hypnotizing her and all that. So Sheba and Mark the cop stake out this vegetarian restaurant because they discovered that all the ladies that were killed were vegetarians. They all had like chunks of vegetables in their stomach, except one girl who had cat meat.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Just threw that in there. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah. We need
They
more
don't
nonsense.
investigate that. Yeah.
No.
So they go, oh my God. Okay, so then we get like, as the boys are putting the body parts together, building Shitar's body, like spraying it, like air brushing it with like gold paint and stuff.
Yes.
So strange. Anwar gives us this like flashback scene of him in what I assume is like the 40s, of him just slaughtering naked women. And how wonderful those are his glory days.
Yeah.
And then he orders them to get more trampy women parts. So they show up at a punk club in disco suits, like body tight, just like in wigs, like Elvis wigs or whatever, because they're trying to fit into the punk club. And then
yeah, one guy looks like a cotton candy Elvis, and the other one looks like a male figure skater.
They look so weird. They murder one of the bouncers to get in. They just throw him in the road, and a car runs over his head. And then they get into the club, and there's this horrible doo-wop band playing inside the club. And they pick up these two trashy girls, as they call them, and take them back to the diner for some sex murder. Meanwhile, the cops are at the vegetarian cafe, and the only customer in the cafe is a puppet, and the owner of the cafe is a ventriloquist, and the puppet is eating health food and smoking a cigarette?
So, I think calling him a puppet is a bit of a stretch, because it's just like it's more like a scarecrow. Yeah. There's no parts that move. Like, there's no mouth motion or anything. He's just sitting there on a stool with a cigarette, not moving, but then voice come out of him.
That's true. He's not really a puppet. He's more just kind of thing.
Yeah.
A little in a cowboy outfit that looks really ridiculous, and he's got a cigarette in his hand. And
his name is Valentino.
That's right, Valentino. And the chef is like, the vegetarian chef is super sweaty and weird, and he gets like, the puppet gets lippy with him, so he sprays it in the face with some sort of spray. It's so bizarre. The whole thing is just.
And the detective Sheba says that she would have sex with Valentino.
That's
basically.
Right, she does. That's great. So the cops get some info about the Tutman Diner, and then back at the diner, Mikey's in the front of the diner with the blonde-haired trashy girl, and Georgie takes the other girl to the back. So Mikey convinces her to get naked and covers her in batter and deep fries her head into a giant hush puppy. And then she runs around the diner and he knocks her head off with a broom. Oh my god. Oh.
That I was not expecting any of that. Like whenever he like was battering her, I was like, well, that's obviously not gonna, But yeah, then just an entire huge size hush puppy head.
All I can think of is I Know What You Did Last Summer, where the killer dragged the body right over the steam pot and never thought to put, like, oh no, Mikey didn't make that mistake. He dropped her battered head right in the oil.
Yeah, and he even had the fry basket, like, pushed her down. Like, he knew how to use the tools available to him.
He Arthur Treachered that trashy woman. It was so great. Oh my god.
It really was amazing.
Oh dear god. And then the other girl goes through this like comedic I can't find my purse, all this bullshit, and then Georgie just kills her with one machete blow. So
oh yeah, chops her all the way in half.
Yeah, that's right. Chops her vertically in half like the murder sled with one machete blow.
Yep, like murder sled and skinned deep. Just here we've got it. We've got the connections.
Oh my god. Amazing. So
yes. The
cops go to visit an archaeologist who is wearing a pith helmet. Because a lady bum found some body parts with an amulet. And so the cops get this lesson from this archaeologist about Lemurians. About Lemurians, and it's completely ridiculous, of course. And then, in the meantime, Anwar has ordered the boys to go get 2 slut lungs and liver. Lungs and liver.
Yes.
Mikey Hypno invites Connie to the Hitler wrestling match. An IRS guy shows up to check their books. They kill him and serve his fingers as the special.
Yup.
And then Georgie, while listening to some mambo on his van, runs over a biker who looks like Matty Matheson, the chef we were talking about, over and over. And every time he runs him over, he does a little mambo dance. And then looks and sees that the guy's still alive, so then he runs over him again and then does a little dance.
He's having the best time.
It goes on for like 2 minutes.
It goes on for like the entire runtime of ICC by the Dutones.
That's what that was? Oh my god. It was so bad. I was amazed at that scene. It had no purpose. Whatever. It was wonderful.
I love it.
So then we're at the beach, and there's this couple getting naked on the beach. They're going to have sex, and the guy says, "I'm so horny I could fuck a cow." And then Georgie shows up, clocks the guy, knocks him out, and then is about to get the girl, and then she suddenly is like a karate master and starts naked karate kicking Georgie's ass. And then a stalactite falls and goes through her head, and she goes, and dies. I was like, wait, what the hell just happened? It's just, why did any of that happen?
So the stalactite obviously fell because she was making too much martial arts wah noise, and it shook it loose.
I know the camera like pans up and you see the thing wobbling. I'm like, they're on a beach. Okay.
They're in a cave.
Yeah, that's true. They're in a cave.
It's a beach cave. It's very nice.
It is nice. It's very well lit. So the
right.
the guy that runs the sweaty vegetarian restaurant guy, Stan or whatever his name is, breaks into the Tutman Cafe because he wants to get their secret recipe. And
that's right.
Then we cut back again. Mikey is in the nightclub. He wants to book the place. He's talking to the guy that runs it and the goon that's with him. And he sweetens the deal with these containers of what look like gumballs, which is apparently their hungry pills.
Yes.
It's like, oh, don't worry, I got the drugs right here.
It's like, and those promoters, those club promoters are like, oh yeah, real drugs.
Because he's like, I'm gonna rent this place out for a Lemurian feast. It's a 50 million year old group or whatever, and so I've got the drugs. So, okay, apparently that worked. So
it worked.
Night booked. So we now we're at the wrestling match. Georgie's wrestling Jimmy Hitler, who's basically kicking his ass. And then Mikey, who's yelling at them the whole time, just saying ridiculous things. That's what's so funny about this movie is, like, all the lines are so obviously, like, targeted at the audience. You know, there is no inner world in this movie. The whole thing plays for you. And it's, I mean, like, there's this ongoing theme where the police chief punches Mark the cop in the stomach for no reason. Where he's like,
very violent.
It's like, did you want us to do that now, chief? Oh, for no reason. I burst out laughing when that happened. That was amazing.
You not expect that at all.
He just hits him full force in the stomach for no reason.
And no warning. Not like I'm gonna punch you now. Just turns around and does it to him.
Oh my god. So at the wrestling match, Mikey throws a rock or a marble or something, which apparently is enough to completely divert Jimmy Hitler's attention. So then that's enough to turn the fight around, and Georgie kicks Jimmy Hitler's ass. At the end, he bites a hole in his leg, and then the blood squirts onto Connie's face, and she freaks out and wants to leave, but then Mike hypnotizes her again and makes her stay. So that's the wrestling scene. And, whew, yeah.
He also knocks her out whenever she resists.
Oh, that's right. He knocks her out by punching her in the face.
Yeah, just right in the face.
Just decks her, and then turns to the guy next to her and says, she's squeamish about blood, or something like that.
Yes! Oh my god, this movie is just bonkers all over the place.
So the boys go back to the diner. They discover that this guy has broken in, and he took Anwar out of the diner. Sheba comes in for because she's investigating or whatever. They punch her in the face and knock her out and hang her in the back on some hook. And then the boys go to Stan's diner, the vegetarian chef. They get Anwar back in this ridiculous fight, I guess you could call it. Chop his arm off with a machete. Yeah. And then
both,
that's right. Then he gets in his car and storms off. And he's driving the car with bloody stumps that are squirting blood all over the windshield. And then he, like, slow motion crashes into a hill, and I guess he dies.
Yeah, that's just it for him.
That's it. He dies. I guess he bled to death. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's fine. Mark shows up, rescues Sheba. Now we're set for we're getting close to the end here. The boys put Anwar's brain into Sheetar's head, and then they show up to Club Dread. This is the nightclub. They booked it for the night. All the people are there. This kind of Elvis impersonator who looks like the Elvis guy from Gwar is performing on stage. I looked him up. He's from Austin. And I forget his real name, but his performer name is Mr. Fabulous.
It's Dino Lee.
Oh, God, how could I forget that? That's right.
And he, like, if you're having a hard time imagining what we're describing, just imagine a guy that thought about himself as possibly being the next Jello Biafra, and he's just a sad, sad failure at that.
He has this huge Elvis-y type pompadour wig that comes up in a point about 1.5 feet over, like, the front of his head, and he's wearing, like, this weird toga thing with, like, no pants and gold boots that come up to his knees or whatever. And his band is insane. They're all dressed like Hitler.
His saxophonists and guitarists are Hitlers, but then he also has, like, backup dancing ladies.
Backup dancing ladies in punk rock wigs, and then the band of Hitlers with kabuki makeup on.
Yeah, and he has a prop dick that he pulls out from his pants and then gives it to the ladies and they chop it up.
It's so bizarre. They perform a couple songs. I forget the first one, but the second song was called, like, Pony something. That song was actually pretty good. I was kind of surprised. But anyways, yeah. So they're playing, the band's playing, the people in the club are taking the hungry pills, and they're starting to turn into zombies. And I guess eating each other or the people who haven't turned yet. I don't know. It's a big bloodbath.
There's also a giant cauldron of human body part stew that Georgie even, like, sprinkles spoons around.
He's nice enough to put utensils around it.
It's amazing.
Oh my god. The boys, they've got Connie strapped down. They've got the book out. They wake Sheetar. She comes up and wakes up and basically starts barf yelling. She's got, like, these huge fangs, and she's always looking to the side. And with this, like, brown oatmeal barf falling out of her mouth. It made no sense at all, but it looked really cool. And then she has her, from right between her breasts down to, like, her lower waist, her entire chest is a giant toothy mouth gina that's like opening and closing and okay, that's fine. That's how Sheetar rolls, I guess.
Big fangs chomping.
Yeah.
And she
starts zapping clubbers with her finger, like blue lightning sparks coming out. She kills Mr. Fabulous. His brain explodes out of his wig. She's killing everybody in the place. It's basically just chaos. And they're playing classical music over it at this point. Like, there's no sound effects, just classical music. She shoots Mikey trying to save Connie. No, I'm sorry. Mark shoots Mikey. And he saves Connie. And then Georgie drags Mark. He hooks him with a chain, and he's dragging him over to Sheetar. And he says, "You killed my friend." I was like, he's your brother, you idiot. In the meantime, Sheba somehow manages to kick Georgie's head into Sheetar's vag stomach. And because he's done this, or she's done this, Sheetar explodes, basically. Like, this just kind of semi, like, explodes. And, you know, it's the next day, the cops are cleaning up the body parts. It's chaos, you know, everybody's wandering around outside. It's just like a triage, but a very badly organized one. And you see a woman walk by from, like, maybe shoulders down in, like, a skin-tight leather dress, red leather dress, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. And she's wearing red pumps, and she's walking by. Then she's walking down the street, and this guy pulls up in a convertible. And he's like, "Hey, baby, you look real good. Why don't you come and get in the car with me?" Or something like that. Yeah. And then she gets in the car and he says to her, "Right before I put my sausage in you, why don't you tell me your name?" And she goes, "I am Sheetar," and smiles with the teeth. And he just kind of looks at her like, "Okay," and they drive off. Doo-wop music, movie over.
Oh, man.
Woo.
And it's intense how much you didn't cover, because there is just so much crazy weirdness in this movie.
It's maniacal. Like, every moment of the film is packed with something ridiculous, and it's an hour and a half long. It's not, for a movie like this, it's not short. I mean,
no.
But it is fun from beginning to end.
Oh yeah, there is no way to be bored while you're watching this movie. Like even like no scene drags. Yeah. Like nothing ever gets boring. As soon as anything could even begin to threaten to be unentertaining, the situation changes and is not a normal transition at all. Just all of a sudden something completely off the wall. There's the two cops, like the male cop is always like really, really trying to get a date with Sheba, but it's just like his attempts are all over the place. He offers to set his masculinity aside and just all kinds of amazingness. This movie is top-notch horror comedy, low budget horror comedy.
Anything goes. I mean, you could tell any idea anyone had, they were like, "Yep, let's do it."
Yep, that one too.
It is ridiculously insane, but it is so entertaining. Oh my god, what a crazy movie!
Yeah, I've got this pegged as the ultimate 14-year-old boy movie.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah.
anything that a stereotype 14-year-old boy could want, this movie has it in spades.
It's like, if you're going to do something problematic and people are going to look at it 30 or 40 years later, Jesus, and comment on it, this is the way to do it, because it's so exuberant and just so unconcerned with they just made the movie they wanted to make. They didn't care if it was offensive or not. They probably tried to be offensive, but because they tried to be offensive, it's not offensive. It's just fun. It's just hilariously over the top. Like, it's totally made to be like a midnight movie, and it perfectly works as one.
Oh yeah. It's the ultimate like drive-in movie. Yeah. Like, oh, it's so good. And everything, even with all the business, there's also background business. You talked about the scene where George is choking the vegetarian, the fat vegetarian customer guy, and gets so he's choking him to the point that the guy starts projectile vomiting all over all the other customers. And just for a real quick split second in there, you can see that while he's being choked and is projectile vomiting, he is still trying to shove a burger into his own mouth.
And then afterwards he gets another plate of food and he says something like, well, I'm gonna have to fill myself back up.
yeah, he has to start over again, and he's still got vomit in his beard. It's so good. Oh my god. The nude martial arts scene in the cave was just amazing. Everything. So did you read about the history of this movie, like how it got made?
Maybe a little bit, but I don't think so.
Okay, so this movie started its life as its intention was a serious sequel to Blood Feast, the Herschell Gordon Lewis movie that's considered the first ever splatter film.
That's right.
And then, of course, Jackie Kong saw it and she was like, oh, but what if it was a comedy? And that's how we got this. And so a lot of the stuff in here is references to Blood Feast and Herschell Gordon Lewis. Even that the gross gray hair paint, that's the main character in Blood Feast looks like that. And
wow.
There it's a 5,000-year-old feast that it hasn't happened in 5,000 years. And even that scene after the cave scene, whenever the cops are there and they're questioning the boyfriend about what happened, you remember how he's freaking out and he's way too over the top? It's basically a word-for-word reshoot of a scene from Blood Feast.
Wow, I've seen Blood Feast, but it's been 30 years. I mean, it's I've completely forgotten it, except that I loved it.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It is, this is basically, I don't know, it's argued in horror circles about whether or not this is her honoring, a send-up or an homage to Blood Feast, or if it's her making fun of how shitty Herschell Gordon Lewis was at making movies. It could go either way.
It could. My guess would be that she probably recognized there was no point in trying to extend faithfully, the Blood Feast, just because it was separated by decades. It's black and white. It just wouldn't have worked in the 80s. And so
it's in color, my dude.
Oh, is it in color? Is Blood Feast in color?
It's in color.
See, I always get that movie confused with 10,000 Maniacs.
Yeah. And
a bunch of those kind of proto slashers and proto splatter films and all that crazy shit. But wow, that's crazy. Okay, so I think maybe she just realized that she didn't want to do it that way. She just wanted to do her own thing.
Yeah,
because they just go balls out. But that's really cool that she honored that movie by doing stuff like doing the word for word part with the beach guy and stuff. That's awesome.
It's fucking amazing. It made, I thought once I dug into the history of this movie, I was worried that I was gonna find things that I would make me like it less, but no, I was oh no, this is great. This is even better somehow.
It's so cool.
Yeah, this movie is Yeah. Oh, it's so good. It's everything that I want most of the other horror comedies to be. Like, this one encapsulated it. It's just so good. I don't even know where to go in.
Oh, Blood Feast. Okay, I remember now. Oh my god, that movie was great.
Yeah. He does the thing, like, that guy does the thing where he, like, hypnotizes the lady, and there's the cops, and then it turns out, oh yeah, so there's this whole little part where it turns out that Connie is the daughter of the police officer.
That's right.
That was originally chasing Anwar when Anwar was a whole person, and his wife screams every time people say Anwar.
Which turns out to be a lot of times.
A lot of times!
So, what can you tell me about Anwar What was his name? Numtut or something?
Numtut. It's Tutman backwards.
Oh, that's right.
Namtut.
Yeah, Tutman backwards.
Yeah.
Anwar Namtut.
Yeah. Oh my god, and even the scene where they figured that out, where she's in her car, on her car phone, eating a hamburger, and then the brothers pull up next to her, and she flips off Georgie, so Georgie moons her and farts at her, and so she throws her entire burger at his ass.
It splats ketchup all over his left butt cheek.
Yeah! And then they drive away, and she sees Tutman on the van, looks at the little thing that says Namtut, and she was like, oh, okay, I've got to go get these guys.
It's amazing how that the movie's actually pretty well thought out. I mean, as anarchistic as it feels, there's, it's got a structure to it. It's bizarre.
Yeah. There are times at which it's like, what? Now, why is this happening? But it's great. I love, oh, there's even a scene where they've got, like, 7, the nude aerobics girls, they've got, like, 7 of their tongues, like, stitched together in a weird, like, floppy, it's so fucking good.
That's right, the tongue, Rat King tongue or whatever.
Yes. Oh my god. And the Valentino scarecrow / puppet or whatever keeps showing up in the scenes with that other chef. Like, he'll be in the back seat of the car being like, don't do it! Don't do it!
Absolutely no explanation as to what the fuck that was. That was amazing.
No, yeah. Yeah, it's just another, like, oh yeah, put that one in there too. There's a part of me that wanted to, like, try to watch all Herschell Gordon Lewis movies and see, like, how much of this is just, like, the stitched together pieces of his nonsense. But
nice.
But it's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm definitely going to go back and watch Blood Feast again, though, but because it's been way too long,
Yeah, I highly recommend watching Blood Feast on 2 times speed, because there are a lot of scenes that take a long time.
Noted.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, if you were to rate this movie from a scale of 1 to 5 loathsome things, how many loathsome things would you give Blood Diner?
Oh man. So I'm giving this movie a 3.3 out of 5 loathsome things. Like, it is great. It is a masterpiece of what it is, but this is a horror movie podcast.
Right.
And there are lots of things that are missing from the horror elements of this movie. So I couldn't give it, like, on our loathsome thing scale, it's, it's a horror movie scale. So I couldn't give it, like, full marks on everything. It is a masterpiece of specifically what it is. And I don't think anything else will ever be as what it is as it is. I mean, even we did Skinned Deep. I think this is what Skinned Deep was going for. Like, I feel like I understand Skinned Deep more now, having seen Blood Diner.
Mm-hmm.
And Blood Diner is amazing. But yeah, it's a fully supportive and loving 3.3 out of 5 loathsome things from me.
That's pretty much exact. I mean, my rating was a 3.5, but I would explain it in the exact same way. And like I like I say, it's like I'll kind of like compare it to the different, like a 3 is average, and it's not an average film. It's very much its own thing. A 4, you're approaching greatness, and it's not great. It's a piece of shit, but it's a lot of fun. It's sheer exuberance of this film, and like zero self-consciousness, like no concern for, is this going to be good, or should we do this, or they didn't care about any of that shit. They just made whatever they wanted to make. They shot the movie they wanted to shoot, and it's a fucking blast, man.
It really is. I don't know. It's just so overwhelming. Like
it is.
Whenever you suggested it and I watched it, I was like, oh, this will be great. And then when I watched it a second time, I was like, how would we ever possibly talk about all of it?
I know.
There's no way.
There's no way. I mean, generally, like you want to, like, you can't even begin to get into like thematic stuff and how it fits into like the horror movie continuum. I mean, you can try, like, it's an 80s film, but it exists in its own time period. I mean, it looks like it was made in the 80s, but it could have been made whenever, because it's got this weird retro vibe to it. There's the 60s feel with the 60s music playing throughout. There's people like there's people in like doo-wop, like that rockabilly style in eating at the diner. So it has this weird 50s diner thing going on, but it's very gritty and disgusting and 80s. It's very LA looking.
Mm-hmm.
It has that, a bunch of down and out actors that they got some work, so they just took it. It's like, it has that feel to it. It's I don't know, man. It's very charming little movie.
It really is. And there's like, I still have mysteries about it. I want to call one out. There are people in the diner that are dressed all in white with weird head wraps. And at times it looks like they're the wait staff, but at other times it looks like they're just eating there, and it's never referred to. It's just a thing that's happening.
I wondered if that was maybe, I guess it could have been maybe a subplot they didn't include, which is hard to imagine.
I can't imagine that there's a lot that got left out of this movie.
Maybe it's a riff on, because in the 70s in LA, the whole natural food thing exploded, but not only was that like a super craze in the 70s in LA, it was also tied into like weird LA cults and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And, there was like the Process Church, and the guy that owned this, I forget his name, but he owned this natural food restaurant, and he like also ran this weird cult at the same time. So that's very much an LA thing, like natural food. Not that anything that they served was even close to health food, but
no.
But that kind of, there's supposed to be this cool hip vegetarian diner, and then you have these people who look like Nefertiti in all white serving the food, but also eating it at times, like you said. It makes no sense. It's so weird.
Didn't make any sense. Yeah, it's great. I think it's part of it's also in the scene where, like, all of a sudden they've started to merchandise, and they're selling like t-shirts and like hand cream and stuff.
That's fucking genius.
Yeah.
It reminded me, obviously, it reminds me of like a weird amalgamation of Basket Case 1 and 2, but it's not as good as 1, and it's better than 2.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's right in that sweet spot.
And 1 is a perfect example of a movie that was, obviously a horror comedy, but horror. I mean, it's, it is, as we had talked about, some of the things in that movie are kind of disturbing. And, you can't say that for this one. I mean, it's like House is trying to be scary, but it's not. But at least it is a horror movie, too.
Yeah, but it's also not very funny, whereas this one, like, really was able to land the humor, and that one had just, like, big stretches of boring lead up to a non-punchline, and this one just does away with punchlines altogether, and it just has weird nonsense constantly going on. Oh, fuck yes.
Yeah, the humor was pretty intuitive. I mean, it was, that was the cool thing, is it didn't have this somebody sat down in a room and wrote all this stuff that they thought would be funny, but it just doesn't work when you have real people do it. Like, a lot of the dialogue sounded like it was improvised, but it worked, and it had this natural feel to it. It was great, man. I love that movie.
God damn. Yeah, this is like Monty Python meets, I don't know, Spider Baby or something. Like, it's just so fantastic and over the top.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about this movie.
Yeah. It's, you guys should definitely check it out. You can find it for free. So that's always an option. And then, maybe go out and buy it. But
yeah. Apparently there's a Blu-ray.
Yeah. And Jackie Kong could use your money. So
yeah, and go buy her. She has a new comic book coming out.
Yeah.
So go get her comic book. Make that a surprise seller.
I mean, she's still very active, She's still out there in the scene, and she obviously likes interacting with people. She sounds like a pretty cool lady. So
yeah. I think she's like on like a big part of her work is with a organization about Asian American like movie makers and stuff like that.
Wow,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really fucking cool. So John, who is the motherfucking asshole of this movie?
Oh man, who is the motherfucking asshole in this movie? I'm gonna have to go with Stan, the vegetarian chef.
Oh, the competing one, yeah. Stan Saldine.
Stan Saldine that they pronounced Satan.
Yeah, all the time.
Who, I think he was the motherfucking asshole because he, like, these guys were corrupted by birth from their uncle. Their uncle, I'm not going to count him as the motherfucking asshole, even though he is one, but Stan's a motherfucking asshole because he broke into their restaurant because he wanted to steal their secret recipe. Like, that's what a shitty thing to do.
Yes.
How about you, sir?
I'm gonna go with the archaeologist because she was a real piece of shit to everyone that worked for her. We didn't touch on it, but she's like constantly, she only shouts her words and is very aggressive with imparting knowledge. And just anyone, like, she'll just walk up to someone and yell at them because they were doing their job, but now they're in her way because she's walking that direction now.
That's true. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah, she's the worst.
And she's wearing a fucking pith helmet.
Yes.
What a motherfucking asshole.
Yeah, amazing. It's great all around. Definitely watch it if you haven't. It's available places. I don't remember where. But it's worth your time, especially if you're into horror comedy. It's, man, maybe one of the, like, even beyond what we've reviewed on this show, like, there's not a lot of horror comedies that I would rate higher than this on its own thing. Like, I might need to start a separate list for horror comedies.
That's an interesting idea, actually, yeah, because it's kind of not fair to compare Blood Diner to Men.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they have very little in common.
Yeah, and it's just so good. We should maybe consider our own, like, a horror comedy scale. That'd be interesting to see how that comes out.
Ah, yeah, that would actually. That's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, and let's see. You can reach out to us with suggestions on our Twitter and Instagram at Loathsome Pod, Facebook at Loathsome Podcast, or email us at loathsomethings@gmail.com. You can do that to ask us questions, correct our errors, or suggest movies to us. John, are there any final things that you want to get off your chest before we let the people go listen to other podcasts?
Oh, get out there and watch horror movies. There's so many of them, and they're really easy to get to nowadays. Watch tons of horror movies, and I'm sorry that you all have to die.